Hello, good morning. Let's move my mic. There we go. Hello, everyone. How's everybody today? Hello, hello. Grand rising, everyone. Looking for what I did with my lighter. I'm going to light my sage. I guess I'll have to use my blowtorch because I can't find my normal lighter. It's one of those days. Mercury retrograde has begun. We need the big sage and the big torch. We need the serious torch today. Good morning, everyone. Nice to see you all. Welcome. Hi, Donna. Hi, Alicia. Hi, Tabitha. Hi, Dipty. Hello, Mr. Bradley. Nice to see you, brother. Hi, Michelle. Hi, Lori. Hi, Patrick. Hi, Carolyn. Hi, Jen. Hi, Sophie. Good morning. How is everybody today? Got the big doobie smudge out today. For all the Mercury retrograde bad jujus, we're sending it back. Anybody noticing any retrograde issues already? Trying not to set my lap on fire, so I'll be smart and use my seashell today. All right. Hi, Kim. Hi, Bernie. Hi, Leanne. Hi, Charisse. How is everybody today? What have you guys been up to? Tell me about your weekend. I was very busy this weekend. I kind of goofed up a little bit. So the last time I did SRT 1, I thought that my class was 6 hours long both days. No, I got that confused with SRT 2. So I had 8 hours of material, and I stretched it out to 12 hours by doing 2 hours of ad lib and Q&A both days. Just going off on tangents and telling wild stories. And most of those stories were very amusing because we've seen a lot of amusing stuff during clearings. So that was good at least. So I hope you guys enjoyed the extended version of my class. If I promise you 6 hours, I'm going to make it to 6 hours, even if I have to sit there and be like, well, I guess I'll answer every single question you can think of. But you guys asked so many wonderful questions and you kept the information, the conversation flowing, and it was so easy. That was the fastest 6 hours both days. Oh, wonderful. I'm glad to hear Neo's doing better, Michelle. Hi, Leanne. Hi, Dipty. Thank you so much for the compliments. I really appreciate it. What's the most interesting thing you think you learned that day during the clearing, or during the classes? Happy Monday, Donna. Nice to see you. So does anybody have any questions about anything from class that I didn't cover, which is probably unlikely considering we had like 4 hours of Q&A? I think we've got most of it. How much we use the guides. Yes. If I could teach you one thing right now, just one thing, right? There's 50 people listening already. The one most important thing is to ask for help. If you're not asking, you're not getting. And this is something that even my own stubborn ass didn't really understand this to that degree, because I would do my psychic protection. I would just be like, shield up, bubbles up, and then I'd go out in public and I would come home with stuff. And I didn't realize that my not asking for help, my gatekeeper was just kind of like, what do you want me to do? I'm not allowed to do anything. So I have been, every time I check myself, I'm sovereign now. And I'm like, this is actually working much better. And they're like, yeah, isn't it amazing how much better things work when you ask? And I'm like, yes, yes, that is true. So you have to ask every morning and every night, can my guides come close and protect me and just make sure nothing is going to mess with me during my dream state? Please make sure that I don't sign any contracts or make any agreements or accept any nefarious gifts during my dream state. Always very important to speak up and to, if you don't ask, you don't get, like I said. So if you get any, like, some people say, well, I don't know how to ask. Well, some people, including myself, I struggle with asking for help from humans in general, just asking for help. It was a funny story I told you guys before on the podcast where I was at the airport trying to get my 50-pound suitcase off the conveyor belt, and this very nice gentleman offered to get it for me, and I was like, no, I got it. And then I nearly broke my back trying to get my suitcase off the conveyor belt. I nearly fell onto the conveyor belt and nearly started going along with the conveyor belt. And the guy's just looking at me like, you got this, huh? Some of us are just fiercely independent. I think that is actually, I think it's kind of like I don't think it's a good thing. I don't think we learned this through people being reliable and, helpful. I think that most of us that have this fiercely independent nature, that we just think, well, I got to do everything myself, right? You just assume, well, who's going to help me? I've got to do everything myself anyway throughout life. Who's going to help me? Well, yeah. Chantal says that's a trauma response for sure. Yes, I completely agree. So not asking for help from your friends, from your family, from your colleagues. But yeah, I 100% have this as a trauma response myself. I would rather make myself a fool in public than to ask for help, which is something I'm still working on. So this is also the case for your guides. If you're not asking for help, they can't help. They have to sit there and watch you struggle. Just like that guy did. The guy watched me struggle and he had a little giggle to himself watching me struggle because he did offer. He was very nice to offer. And my stubborn ass said no. So how often do our guides sit there and watch you struggle and be like, I can't help. She didn't ask me. What do you want me to do? Grab her stuff and do it anyway? Like, no, she's not going to ask me. I'm going to stand back and do nothing. And I have noticed that now every morning and every night when I ask for protection, I haven't been messed with since. I haven't had a single beastie on me. The only thing Fergus doesn't like to deal with is earthbounds. He leaves those for later. He's like, she'll get those when she does clearings later. That's fine. I haven't even had a level 1 on me in like a week, thanks to Fergus. So, but that's the difference, is that I every single day. You know what's funny? Is at first I assumed I was being annoying. This is part of the trauma response. It must be. For me to ask my guides for help every day, I considered to myself to be needy. And I am the opposite of needy. I am. So for me to feel needy asking for my guides for help, I think that was the barrier that I needed to work on. To understand that I am important enough to ask for help. Every single one of you are. So, but if you're not asking, they're not allowed to intervene. In fact, that would be violating your free will. Because if you're the kind of person that's like, I'll do it myself because you learn the best by doing yourself, then that's fine. The guides can respect that. But no, I'm shooting myself in the foot constantly by not asking for help. So I'm starting to ask more. So JR, sorry, he just said, can our guides clear us? Yeah, that's a big part of asking for help. JR, 100%. Yes, they can. Depending on what it is. They may have a certain thing that they like to clear or don't like to clear. In fact, oh my God, I got to tell you guys, this is some funny shit, right? So yesterday, I did a clearing on somebody. This is a gentleman. He had a level 1 on his head. And when I say the guides were like, what do we do? I was like, what do you mean? And they're like, well, we can't like hit it because then we'll hit the client on the head. So we can't we don't want to remove it because this thing is snarling and nasty and trying to bite and scratch us. So the guys were like, what do we do? Oh, it's cracking me up. So I asked them to describe it and they said it looked kind of like an angry demonic raccoon. And I was like, I started getting flashbacks. Anybody seen Everything Everywhere All at Once with that scene with Raccacoonie? I was seeing that, but like an evil Raccacoonie attracting people as you come near the client. It's really funny. This is the kind of shit that you see, right? Sometimes the guides will see something like that and they'll be like, what the hell? What am I supposed to do with that? Right? Sometimes they're a bit confused and they are like, okay, maybe we need to call somebody else that knows how to deal with this thing, you know? So this is why I say, like, you know, if you don't ask, you don't get. You can say to your guide, hey, can you remove this thing? Yeah, if they can, they will. If they can't remove it, you can say, hey, can you call in somebody that can, please? Can you call in a reinforcement? The only time that self-clearings will not work is if you are cut off from your spirit team. If you leave it, right? So if something comes into your etheric field, like when I feel something come in now, being sovereign for so long, you get used to it. We call it a ping. So a ping will hit your etheric field, and usually it's a pain or a nausea or goosebumps or some kind of a chest pressure. That's how you can tell something comes into your etheric field. And this pinging is attacking your etheric field, which is your bubble of protection, right? If you leave it, it's going to get worse. They're going to claw their way in. I have literally seen this where I went to check on somebody while they were sleeping. They had their golden bubble of protection around them, like they did their psychic protection. But when I tuned in to check them at night while they were sleeping, there was a lizard literally clawing through, like he's trying to dig through, like he's digging a hole to get into her golden bubble. So this is why I say sometimes, you know, your golden bubbles of protection will only do so much. This is why you have to ask your guides to keep an eye on you while you're sleeping, right? And so, you know, these things, they're very opportunistic. If you are able to catch it quick enough, then the guides will deal with it. But if you don't catch it quick enough, if you just leave it for days or even give it an opportunity to kind of, like I said, claw its way in and get into your etheric field, then that they do what we call muzzling. Muzzling is when they cut you off from your etheric field. It's kind of like putting you in a jar. All right. You know how you take like fireflies and put them in the jar, right? And they're stuck in the jar until you open it. Well, that's kind of how it gets in the astral too. They can cut you off energetically from your team. That's what happens with imposters, and that is when a self-clearing will not work. You're not connected to your team anymore. If they cut you off from your team, you can't get your team to come in and self-clear you. In fact, they're very clever. And as we are getting smarter and more intelligent in regards to noticing entities, they're getting more clever at hiding themselves. There are, like I said, the imposters will come in, they will do all kinds of tricks and glimmers and try and persuade you in different ways. In fact, there are so many different types of sneaky things that the reptilians do. You really do have to stay on your toes. All right, I had pain during class. It hit me and asked my guys to remove what hopped on, and it was gone in seconds. Exactly, Leanne. That's how you do it. If you leave it for days, then you're cut off from your team and you're going to have to book a clearing. So if you can catch it quickly, if you can catch it the minute you feel off, whether it's nausea or pain or just feeling ungrounded or just something coming in, you can feel it. Listen to your intuition. And the longer that you are sovereign, the more it is noticeable when something pings your etheric. So the minute that happens, you call in your team, you ask them to protect you. Your gatekeeper is your bouncer. That is their job. So they bounce the baddies that are trying to come in and mess with you. But every morning and every night, you have to ask. And you say to your gatekeeper, please protect me while I sleep. Please make sure I'm not making any agreements or contracts or accepting any gifts. Please just make sure that you know what else is really cool? Archangel Shamuel, Janet's guide, really wonderful guide that we've been working with recently. He had a great suggestion the other day. He said that as you're drifting off to sleep, visualize your normal psychic protection, right? And this is important for those of you who are astral travelers, especially. So as you do your golden bubble, your suit of armor, your invisibility cloak, your whatever you want to, put around you. One person last week I heard had a really amazing idea. This blew my mind. How genius was this? Somebody said, you know how I always talk about golden eggs? One of our people puts herself in a dragon egg and manifests a dragon to watch the egg while she's sleeping. I thought I was like, genius. What a cool idea. That's the coolest egg we've heard yet. Some people will put themselves in like a Moldavite bubble around themselves, whatever works, right? So you do your psychic protection first. And then after you've done your psychic protection, you visualize a golden elevator. I'm sure you know where I'm going with this. So the golden elevator, you can make it as beautiful as you like, design it as your own. As you're drifting off to sleep, visualize that golden elevator coming and dropping down in front of you. Step into the golden elevator, turn around, hit the button, right? And set an intention for where you would like to go when you hit that button, right? So you get into the elevator, you hit a button, and with that button, you're setting an intention for where you'd like to go. You can go to the healing place. You can go to visit a loved one in particular. You can go to wherever you want to go to take Etta. It doesn't matter. If you've got a place that you would like to go, you just ask that elevator to take you there. And as you hit the button, you set that intention. Please take me to the healing place. Bing. So this will actually help because a lot of us are just wandering aimlessly in the astral, especially while we sleep. If you're not consciously aware of what you're doing when you're sleeping, you might be wandering around some kind of low vibe, nefarious places. So this is why every night we call in our gatekeeper. We ask our gatekeeper to stay close and to protect us, but we also do our psychic protection, and you can set an intention for where you'd rather go so you're not just wandering aimlessly. Sound good? Once we get to 100 people on here in a second, I think we will also have a little treat for you guys. So doing the SOT1 course, I am seeing stripes of color in my notebook. Blue, purple were over the weekend, and today has been going orange and yellow. Interesting, Catherine. Have you been getting into the chakras? That Hands of Light book is amazing. So I was talking a little bit about the Hands of Light by Barbara Ann Brennan. She's got 3 books that are phenomenal. They came out in like the 90s, but they're still just as wonderful today. Just as accurate. In fact, I think out of all of the books that I've read about chakras and psychic attacks and things like that, she just does a really amazing job of depicting what it's like to try and block negative people so they don't get into your etheric field and mess with your energy. So for empaths, for healers, for people doing spirit release, I highly recommend getting the book. Healing, is it Hands of Light? Yeah, Hands of Light. You can get it on thrift books. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it everywhere. So Hands of Light is an amazing book, and it's actually part of a 3-book series, and I highly recommend the whole series. All 3 books are great. Kimberly says, I have a dragon as a spirit guide. He protects my house when I'm outside. Some people are scared about my dragon. Yes, they are not in relation to Draco. They are not related to Draco in any way, shape, or form. So, in fact, it's quite funny how different some dragons are. Like Bradley's Earth Dragon. Bradley has a dragon named Sokol. And Sokol is great. He's more of like a Viking dragon. He's an Earth dragon. So people from like Engen and things will have access to these beings on occasion if you are worthy enough. And they can come in as you call them. Your vibration has to be very, very, very high for this, just for the record, because dragons have a very high vibration. So I'm telling you, dragons are real. People can doubt all they want. You can doubt. I doubted for a long time. I was like, dragons? Really? It was easier for me to believe in reptilians and dragons. I have no idea why. It just was. But it wasn't until I went to France and had to deal with dragons myself and actually got attacked by a little baby one and was like, what is attacking me? Ow. And found out it was a little mini dragon. So yeah, these things are real. They are absolutely, and they're different depending on where they're from and what frequency they come from. I love it when the guides are like, when things are really bad in a clearing, they're like, we're calling in the dragons. And I'm like, oh, yeah, please do. So they do. They occasionally do call in the dragons if something is really bad, and they just burn out all the shit. All the shit. So if you have a dragon, you have earned that dragon, not just, by being in a high vibration and wanting to do the work, but in past lives, you have had a connection to it. That's why the one that was mad at me was attacking me, because it was mad at me about past life trauma. It remembers you. I just walked into an area near Da Vinci's castle and I got attacked. And that's why I got attacked, because it remembered me. It's a long story. Have you ever heard of someone doing a spell and attaching a piece of themselves to you? A soul fragment? I can imagine that could be a thing. Yeah. So Cole told me the dragons will only lower their vibration to a certain point to connect with humans. Yeah, I don't blame them. I wouldn't want to lower it either. Bradley, if hope you don't mind me telling you, Bradley. Bradley had a really strong connection with his dragon, and then we went to Missouri and we were doing naughty things and eating naughty things and doing all the stuff Bradley wouldn't normally be doing, and his vibration went low for a bit. I mean, yeah, we were all doing high vibe stuff, but his vibration is super, super high to connect to that point. And so if you're slack on that for a little bit, your vibration will go down. You'll be like, where's my dragon? Does my dragon abandon me? No, it's just your dragon's up here and your vibration is down here. So you have no idea what's going on with your dragon. You can't even see your dragon right now. And it was interesting the other day because I asked about my guide, because sometimes occasionally I can feel them very, very closely. And other times I can't feel them very closely. So I asked Bradley the other day, I'm like, what is the deal with this? Like, how come every once in a while I can feel my guide like right next to me? And then as I say that, Fergus just tapped me on the forehead. You're funny. So he's like, yes, I'm here. I'm here. So when your guide is up close, you can feel their energy. In fact, you can even ask them to come in close so you can feel their energy stronger. When a dragon does that, you might get heart palpitations, just saying. Like, or an Irma, some of your guides are really, really intense. So that is why you may notice that, you know, it's a bit much when you come and ask them to come in closer. So every once in a while, if you ask your guys to come in close, they will, and you can kind of gauge what you can sense from their vibration. And in doing that, you strengthen your connection. It doesn't matter if their vibration is super high. You can still ask them to come in. You may feel it, you may not. I have guides that I don't even know about yet much because their vibration is so high. My vibration isn't high enough to meet them yet. We had a couple people that signed up for SRT2, and this is something I really, really want to express because I don't know how they got this impression. I know I didn't give off the impression, so this must have been an assumption. But people assumed that just by taking SRT2 that they would get a new guide. Doesn't work that way. Do you know how you get a new soul guide, especially one for SRT? Can somebody guess? How do you get a new soul guide? Just curious if people are paying attention to what I've been dropping here. Can you guess? Brittany was paying attention. Anita, that's part of it. When your vibration goes up, it makes it easier. No, asking is, no, not really. Asking, you can ask, yeah, but doesn't mean you're going to get it. I mean, you never know unless you ask, right? So, yeah, asking is definitely a good one. Bam, Jessica knows. And Summer knows. Yes, exactly. 100%. Working with the guides you already have. Why should they bring you a new guide if you're not talking to the ones you've had your whole life? You've had a companion guide that you were born with. Do you know their name yet? Do you know your connection to that companion guide? Do you know your relationship to them? Just curious. How many of you actually know your companion guides by now? How many of you know they're your astral bestie? You should know who they are. That's Charlie for me. Charlie and I knew each other in Edinburgh in the 1300s. We were very close friends. I was the son of an astronomer. And Charlie and I grew up on the high street, so to speak. His family was also very wealthy. He and I were only children, so we became best friends, and we grew up together. We died of plague together a very short time apart in our mid-30s. Charlie only had one incarnation after we died of plague together, and he was drawn and quartered. And for those of you who don't know what drawn and quartered is, they basically take 4 horses and yeah. So, and he was innocent, by the way. He was accused of something he didn't do. So Charlie has decided not to come back as a human. He went to Soul Guide school and he's been doing Soul Guide school ever since. So when I needed a guide that I really could trust and rely on to keep me on my path and to keep me on target, That's who I chose, was Charlie. And I love my Charlie very much, don't I, Charlie? If you hear me busting out a British accent, I blame Charlie for that. I know, Marcella, I know exactly. Mars and I had very similar, except that Mars and I died very young children. You see why I love Edinburgh so much. So it's my home away from home. Galis and I, so Galis is my other guide. Galis knows Marcella, but she doesn't know me personally. We just came very close friends, and we have a lot in common. Galis is an Earth seed. Charlie is also an Earth seed. And then I have my gatekeeper. As you know, I told you guys the story the other day of how I met Fergus. I don't even know. Maybe I've had other lifetimes with Fergus. I didn't actually think to ask that. So, so I had at least one lifetime with him, and he's chosen to protect me and be my close companion in this lifetime now, starting 6 months ago. So you will have new guides that come in. Galis decided to come in and be one of my guides. She's helping me with clearings. I do a lot of witch wound work with my team because I died twice as a witch and other stuff very similar to that. I've had a lot of persecution wounds too. This is another reason I'm working on my imposter syndrome and other things. So this is one of the reasons why I've just wanted to discuss this a little bit so that you guys can build your relationship with your guides, because this is very important. Very important for you to develop a connection. So the guide said to me the other day, I think it was Zach that told me this. I have source amnesia on here occasionally. I think it was Zach that said this. He goes, you know, your connection to Fergus, since you remembered him, has gotten so much stronger. And I'm like, really? He goes like, yeah. And I saw it in my head. He showed me. He's like, your connection was like this. And now it's like this. Because I'm talking to him, because I remember him. I started having all these flashbacks. And as you get flashbacks to your past lives, you start to download memories. I remember him now. It's the craziest thing to remember how you feel about somebody who died 300 years ago. But it's interesting how you start to remember your past lives. You start to remember your guides. You start to remember your connection, and your connection gets stronger. And the more you talk to them, the more you build that connection, the more you have a connection to your team, and the stronger that is. And that when your team sees how strong your connection is to your gatekeeper and to your companion guide, and you're really coming online with your mediumship, that is when they will be like, okay, would you like a new soul guide? Would you like to do SRT? So you have to work at it. It takes time. Some people I know have worked for years at that. Oh, thank you, Jessica. Leanne says, my session with Adriana changed everything for me. Oh, hands down. Absolutely, it changed everything for me. Adriana is so much fun, though, because when she tells you a story, you're not just hearing it, you're seeing it in your mind's eye. Like you're getting downloads as she's telling you, and you can see this rush of memories coming in. And I think I've said this before, but it reminds me of watching an old childhood video of yourself. Like you may not remember when you were 5, right? But if somebody comes and shows you a video of when you were 5, you're going to be like, oh yeah, I remember this. I remember that. You remember this. And you remember details that aren't even in the video anymore. And you're like, oh my God, this is just unlocking memories and creating like a snowball effect of memories coming to the surface. That's what Adriana's sessions are like. So Carolyn said, and he told us he needs to be here as your guide to protect you when you remembered the trauma of his death. Aw. I've traumatized myself a lot, I must say. Although I have noticed that once you can talk about something without getting an emotional reaction to it, that you have healed it, or at least to a much better degree than it was. So I can tell I've done a lot of healing work in regards to my past life trauma, because a lot of it, I can feel a shift in how I feel when I remember it. When I go back to visiting that life in my memory, I have a very different emotion that rises to the surface now. So yes, absolutely. We have a couple guides with us today who are happy to do a clearing. We have over 100 people watching. So who would like a clearing today? Remember, if you don't ask, you don't get. So call in your own guides. Ask your guides to come in close, especially your gatekeeper. Ask them to clear you. All right. We have some mediums watching us today. We have quite a few guides with us, and I just got goosebumps. So they're like, yes, we're ready to go. Thank you. It's been a crazy weekend, so I thought I would offer. I did ask, and the guide said yes, they would do a clearing on everybody this morning. So thank you very much to our spirit team who's here to just make sure we're getting all the beasties out of here. Allison said, you know, I'm Pleiadian. Adriana just confirmed it. Listen to your gut. Hey, always listen to your gut. We have noticed this before too, that some of you have already kind of like have a really deep understanding of yourselves. You're just gaslighting yourself and you need validation. So yeah. Names, for example, the other night, I got my name Jenna in the other life. And I was like, Jenna? Really? That's my name? And then I went to Adriana. I was like, was my name Jenna in that life? And with Culloden? And she's like, yeah, it was. And I was like, yeah, holy shit. Names are hard. If you can get a name right, you should be patting yourself on the back and being like, oh my God, I am a medium. Names are really tough. So if you manage to do that, and you never know unless you call them in. There's certain beings that you can call in and ask for help. You don't even have to be a medium. You can just call them in and ask. Ask for angelics to come in. Archangel Michael's a big one. Right, Carolyn? Carolyn's been, I hope you don't mind me saying this, but Carolyn's been gaslighting herself. She's been sensing Michael's energy. This really cracked me up, right? She's been sensing Archangel Michael's energy coming in, but she works with a female angelic and Yeshua, and she hasn't really she hasn't really like planned that connection with Michael or anything. So she was gaslighting herself. Michael would come in and she'd be like, I'm sorry, I'm too busy. No, I'm joking. She didn't do it like that, but she was kind of ignoring him to a degree because she was doubting herself and doubting that Michael would come in. And I'm like, Carolyn, you're an angelic. Why wouldn't he come in? Of course he would. But even with us mediums, we still gaslight ourselves all the time. And sometimes a new guide will come knocking and they'll be like, hey, may I come in? And we'll be like, I don't know you. Carolyn was playing hard to get. I love that. It's so funny. So yeah, Carolyn had, Archangel Michael's been coming calling, and she's just like, sorry, I'm too busy right now. It's so funny. But yes, he does. Ariana says Archangel Michael always shows up when he's called. He's probably here now because I've been name dropping him. You gotta be careful who you name drop. You say their name 3 times, they're like Beetlejuice. They pop in. Okay, so you gotta be mindful who you summon and for what purpose. But yeah, he does come. Michael always comes. He might show up late. He might take a little while. He's very busy. But remember, there's tons of other guides you can ask. You can ask Archangel Raphael and all the others. There's so many different ones that can come in and do healing. We've been working with Shamuel. Shamuel is so sweet. What a wonderful guide he is. So loving. So, like I said, you guys have connections to all these beings. You're a human. You're source. You may be a source in a human body, but you're still able to call upon these beings. Your belief in yourself is very important in this regard. I had a dream that I knew an Arcturian. We were on her ship, and I knew her name was Jenny, and I had a QHHT session, and she came through because she's a version of me. I bet you're on a pod. And she said my name is Jenny, and that as myself, I come to visit her all the time in the astral. Yes, that is what happens with Adriana. Adriana is in a pod. And Evanon pops in during dream state on occasion just to check in on things. That's her other personality who's in the pod. I know how confusing this can be. Okay. But beings that have very, very powerful telepathic abilities can kind of split their consciousness. So one consciousness is in the pod, and that's the galactic version, and the other path of the consciousness is incarnated into a human vessel. So there's a lot in regards to pods. I have an article that's half written about pods that I need to finish. I will work on that now that class is over. Raziel, yes, there's Zadkiel, there's so many. Some Metatron, there's Archangel Ariel. She works with animals a lot. Archangel Michael can be in many places at the same time. Yes, he's very busy, but he can still, I wonder how many ways he can split himself. When your spirit guides are trying to communicate with you through your numbers, what numbers associate with which beings? Well, you can ask. It depends. Each being has different numbers. In fact, it's funny. We've been seeing, like the Salations, for example. Zach loves number 7. So we see 777 a lot when Zach's trying to get our attention. And Sam likes 4s. So we see 4s a lot when Sam's trying to get our attention. And every once in a while, we see 7s and 4s together. And I'll be like, you guys are hilarious. So can you ask Azrael to help with LSR? Probably. You can probably ask any archangel or angel to help with LSR. They can open the door. Yeah. So you can call in any angelic you wish to help you with Lost Soul Rescue. Because angelics, that's what they can do. They can open the door and help you to cross over. And I don't know if everybody saw my post the other day that I shared. We had yesterday I did over 5 hours worth of clearings. Like, I'm not even kidding. I was like this the whole day yesterday trying to catch up. I sent over 30 reports yesterday. I'm not even kidding. And I still have more I have to send this morning. So thank you to you guys for being so patient with me, because I have been swamped like you would not believe with bookings. But I have been keeping up. Right now we're still up. We're at a 3-week mark. So considering I've got 130 pending bookings right now, and we're only at 3 weeks behind, that's not bad at all. I'm actually giving myself a little pat on the back for catching up the way we have. Many thanks to Carolyn and Adriana and Bradley for helping me out yesterday with catching up. But, we were doing clearings, and there's something I noticed between all the different mediums when we sat down to work, and no matter where we went to do a clearing, because we were bouncing all over the place. We were bouncing from America to Australia to Europe to the Philippines. We were all over the place, like seriously everywhere. So as we're bouncing around doing clearings, we started to notice something that was very strange. So if you saw my post, you're already going to know what I'm going to say. So Jennifer says, I thought Sundays were your day off. You're such a workaholic. Sundays are my day off. I know. They're my day off from everything else except clearings. I know. I don't even get me started. The guides are already giving me shit about me being a workaholic too much. They made me go for a walk this morning. They're like, you need to go for walks at least 2-3 times a day now. Anyway, so we were doing clearings, and we started to just kind of like, I do property clearings all the time. Property clearings means we check around the neighborhood, just see what's going on, see if there's anything that needs to be cleared, that sort of thing. And so we started to do, because I would do a clearing around the house. We always, whenever you book a clearing, if it's a standard SRT, a recheck, anything at all, we clear the inside of your house. All right. We always clear the inside. If you want us to check the outside of the house, you have to book a property clearing to go along with it. And we will check around the whole property. We do occasionally ask the guys to just do a quick sweep for entities in case one's trying to do a runner, of course. So we do ask them to check. But if you want a thorough check with the property, clearing earthbounds and portals and all that stuff around your property, that is an add-on that a lot of people add, right? And a lot of people add this. So we do tend to get a lot of bookings. And I had quite a few of those yesterday where we're doing an internal clearing and then we do the outside clearing, right? So as we're doing these clearings, I come through and I asked Zach, I said, hey, Zach, I said, how many earthbounds in the home, blah, blah, blah. And he tells me, and we're going through the full protocol. And we go outside. I said, okay, how many earthbounds outside the house? And he goes, 65. I was like, what? 65? And he's like, yeah. How are there 65? Are you going through the layers? No, they're rushing to us from the neighborhood. And I said, are you kidding? And they said, no. They said every house, every business, they're all just rushing out of the houses and businesses, and they're coming to us. It's like the word has gotten out and around the neighborhood really quickly that there's angelics or whoever is opening doors for earthbound so they can cross and they can leave. And they're rushing us. There were so many earthbounds rushing to them. And at first I was like, well, that's odd. But we just kind of brushed it off. We're like, yeah, that's interesting. So we left it. And we went to go off and do more clearings. And then it happened again. And it completely, like the first time it happened, I think it was Australia, if memory serves me correctly. So then we're going back. We're like in Texas or some shit next. And they did it again. That's odd. Then we go to a third location. And they did it again. And then we cleared a really interesting, there was it was a toll house. That was a really cool one. Somebody booked a clearing for a toll house in England. You won't believe, like, earthbounds were robbing cars of their money. Like, if you left money in your car, your money would disappear. And people would be like, why? I wonder why. And we found out the earthbounds are robbing the money from cars to pay their tolls. What the hell? Like, weird shit, right? So anyway, we got tons. I mean, we got like hundreds of extra earthbounds yesterday that we wouldn't normally get, because normally we would have to go from house to house to house, looking under stairs and looking in basements and looking in attics to find all of these earthbounds. But instead, they come rushing to us. So we're like, this is really strange. What is happening? So like, when on the third or fourth time it happened, I even switched to a different medium. I'm pretty sure I actually went to Carolyn. Yes, that's right. Zach at first didn't even know what's going on. He was just like, I don't know. So I went to Carolyn and I said, hey, Carolyn, let's just see if this is going to do the same thing. And it did. As Carolyn and I are doing clearings, the earthbounds were behaving the same way. And I said, what the hell is going on? This is so bizarre. Angelina, Carolyn's guide, who is an angelic, explained to us that they're kind of snapping out of it. They're waking up. They're waking up out of this confusion and stupor and misery that they were in. And this is not including the earthbounds that are in voids. This is not including the earthbounds that have dark attachments and have entities that are like, attached to them. Those guys, unfortunately, are still going to need help because their situation is complicated. But the earthbounds that are just wandering around aimlessly, confused, not remembering who they are, not knowing why they're there, not even knowing that they're dead, all those guys are waking up. They're snapping out of it. And I was like, holy shit, what is going on? That's what they explained. They said they're starting to wake up. And I said, why is that? And exactly, Brittany. She said that's in her own way. That's what she explained. It's part of the matrix lifting. The energies aren't as chaotic. What's the word? The overlays that cause confusion aren't as dense and heavy as they were previously. So yes, things are getting extra shifty, as Summer just said. Yes, indeed, Summer, it is. And the energies are going to keep getting more and more intense. So your vibration is going to be doing this a lot. Just be aware, right? Your vibration is going to go up and down, up and down. It's going to kind of feel weird for the next coming weeks as these things intensify. Because we can't just do this, right? We can't just go up in vibration like a rocket ship. Otherwise, all the people that couldn't handle it will be freaking out. And that's partially why the earthbounds are behaving the way they are, and why they're rushing to the light is because they're ready to go. They're like, nope, I'm done. I'm ready to get out of here. Thank you. Get me the fuck out of here. I want to cross over. Thank you. So it's a wonderful and exciting time. It really is. But just be aware that the more things get intense, low vibrational people and entities are going to struggle. So those negative Nancys, I don't want to use the word because I have a few friends that I love named Nancy, but you know what I mean? The Debbie Downers, those ones are going to have the worst time with this because everything around them is going to start raising. Everybody around them is things are going to start getting better. And those people do not like it. There are people that wallow in self-pity, that wallow in those low vibrations. And they prefer to stay in those vibrations because of their victim mentality and a whole lot of other unhealed things that they need to work on. But the rest of us who have been working on ourselves that are purging and releasing, I asked Zach the other day, I said, Zach, I feel lighter. Like, I feel different. And he goes, yeah, healing that stuff with Fergus was massive. And I said, really? How so? And he goes, it was a huge block for you. Huge block. Massive block for you. So for you to address it, remember it, heal it, integrate it, and to kind of like, because I can talk about it now without being a blubbering mess like I was the other day. This comes from releasing it. This is why humans need to talk about things. If you talk about something and you get emotional, you start crying, you're releasing something in regard to that. And that's why crying is so important. But if you feel numb, which I have for quite a while in different aspects, especially in regards to relationships, I've gone very numb according to relationships. There is something that has caused a huge block that needs to be healed. And it wasn't until I started working on some of my past life pain and trauma that these blockages started releasing. And then all of a sudden my gifts are stronger. Like my intuition is stronger. I start getting goosebumps again. For a couple months I wasn't getting my truth bumps, as I call it. Because that's how I get validation from my guides that I'm right about something. Is either they go like this is yes, or I get head to toe chills. Those are my two forms of validation from my guides. And this one I had to ask for. I'm like, if I get something right, just do this. So yeah, they do that now. So if you're feeling numb, there's a block. And that is what I had to deal with. And once I got rid of that block, I'm no longer numb anymore. In fact, I need to be mindful about letting the waterworks fall too much, because then, just be aware of how you feel and process it. Emotions are like visitors. They're not supposed to live. You're not supposed to live in those emotions. You're supposed to visit, spend a little time there, get used to however you're supposed to feel in that space, and then kind of let it go. And once you can talk about something without having an emotional reaction to it, without feeling numb to it, then you've healed it. And you deserve a pat on the back. Because chances are that's not just one lifetime's worth of shit you're dealing with, it's multiple. Dipti says, every time I read my SRT reports or talk about it, I cry. Good to know it's being released. Yep. And as Dr. Tracy would tell you, tears are not the only way we can release things. You can release anger by going and, punching a pillow. By letting out your war cry, so to speak. You can just go Rah! To let out your anger. It helps. Because otherwise, if you're not letting it out, it's going to get trapped in an organ somewhere. Or it's going to get trapped in the chakra. So if you get mad, let it out. Don't bottle it up, because then it's going to come out later when you're not prepared to deal with it. And then you wonder why your fuse is so short. It's because you got so much emotions, they're ready to come out the cracks. So you got to release those emotions. My favorite way to do that is through music. Patrick says, scream into a pillow. That's a great one, Patrick. I saw a movie the other day. What was it? This guy was mad and he was hollowing out an old canoe. And he was like taking this axe to this canoe. He was like, rah, like trying to hollow out this canoe because he was so pissed. Whatever works. You ever see those smash rooms that you have at like Renaissance fairs and stuff where they like, you pay like $5 and they give you a bunch of old shit to smash? I mean, whatever. As long as you let it out. Writing is great. Yes, exactly, Victoria. Writing is really great. Yep. Writing it out. Writing a letter for somebody you're not going to send the letter to is a big one. I have music for every emotion. Like I literally do. I have a playlist of songs for every emotion. I'm not even kidding. I'll read it to you so you can see what I'm talking about, right? Let me go to my playlists. All right. I have a badass playlist. So when I'm feeling gangster, I listen to that one. I have a dance playlist. I have a haterade. I call it haterade. So when people are being really mean to me and like bullying me over stuff, like some of you have seen not too long ago online, I created a playlist for that called Haterade. It makes you feel better. It builds your confidence a little bit. I have a playlist called Mellow. I have a playlist called Sad. I have a playlist called Mad. I have one called Sisterhood. I have one called Warrior. I have a Witch Wound playlist. I even have a Witch Wound playlist. I have a workout playlist. I have a 90s playlist. I have even a whistling songs playlist. How many songs are my... I have how many? I'm just curious. I have 15 whistling songs on my whistling songs playlist. So just to put it into perspective, coming up with all these different playlists is a great way to kind of, if you're feeling a certain way and you don't really know what you're feeling, put on some music and see if you can bring it more to the surface so you can transmute it better. Some of you guys are, releasing stuff so much right now that you're kind of beating yourselves up and being like, oh, I'm too sensitive. No, being sensitive is a beautiful thing. You just need to start setting boundaries against the things that trigger you. Being sensitive is a gift. It is 100%. There are so many sensitive people on this planet, though, that get pushed around. They don't have strong boundaries. They're constant people pleasing. So they're not really embracing what it means to be sensitive in a powerful way. To be sensitive means that you can be very compassionate and altruistic and kind and be able to to relate to people in ways that they're not used to. So it is a very beautiful thing to be sensitive, but it's not a beautiful thing to be a pushover and to let people take over that sensitivity. So just be a mind of that. Sometimes your gifts can seem like a curse if you're not using it properly and if you're not embracing that gift in the way it's meant to be used. Like, do you guys ever see that movie Bedazzled with Brendan Fraser and Elizabeth Hurley? Where I was talking about it the other day, right? It's a Sam Raimi film. I love Sam Raimi. He's my favorite director. And Sam Raimi. So anyway, there's this one wish where he says, he found out that his girl he's got his huge crush on likes a sensitive man. She goes, "Oh, you're not sensitive enough." And he goes to her and he's like, "I need a new wish. I want you to make me the most sensitive man in the world." Does anybody remember that scene? Do you remember how that backfired on him? And he's like, no, I mean emotionally sensitive. He's like, "Oh, thank God I caught that." And she's like, "Oh, that was gonna be a good one." He's like, no, I mean emotionally sensitive. She was like, "Darn, that could have been a fun one." But then he cries nonstop. Exactly. I mean, he just looks at the sunrise and bursts into tears. Like, it's such a funny movie. You got to watch that movie again if you haven't seen it. It's so great. I love Bedazzled. Such a funny movie. So, yeah, and that's like, it just goes to show, yeah, it's good to be sensitive, but you really need to set some boundaries with it and to get your emotions under control. So, Michelle says, and then some guy kicks sand in his face and takes his girl. I know, see? Bedazzled is the name of the movie, Jen. You got to watch it. It's so great. It's an old Brendan Fraser film that is just brilliant. Jessica says, that used to be me with crying. See? So if you want a good comedy to watch, that's a good one. My favorite, though, was the basketball player. I'm not going to go into what he cursed himself with. He's like, "I want to be the world's most famous basketball player. I want to be like Michael Jordan," and he gets his wish, but he gets cursed at the same time. So I'm telling you, you got to watch that movie. It's so good. So Geneva had a question for me. Yay, I love questions. What is your experience with draconian type guides? Is that common? Alpha Draco guides are what we call dragons. So Alpha Dracos are dragons. There are negative Alpha Dracos, however, they are very rare. Having a reptilian as a soul guide on Earth is exceptionally rare and almost non-existent. In fact, chances are, if you do have a reptilian guide and it's a positive one, they're not even going to tell you that they're reptilian. They know, okay? They know the history. They know the reputation. They know how much, I mean, we've literally been a food source for reptilians our whole lives. So they know that there's a lot of fear, and rightfully so, a lot of caution in regards to these things. So my guides have told me on several occasions that they're not going to admit that they're reptilian if they are. And for the record, we have found Orion starseeds. In fact, Carolyn and I found out not too long ago. She's like, "This is a really interesting starseed. Like, this is a guy that was in jail and all kinds of shit." And he's like, "What kind of starseed is this?" And I said to Angelina, I said, "Is it an Orion starseed?" And Angelina said, "Yes." And Carolyn's like, "What does that mean?" And I was like, "Oh, shit, I know what that means." And they're like, what is that?" And I'm like, "It's a reptilian in a human body." It is. He wanted to be born human, so he took a human vessel. He was able to be born into a human body. He's trying to change. He's not doing the best job at it yet, but he's working at it. He's trying to be better. Some of them do. Some of them actually want to be better. So yeah, they may start as a reptilian, but since they lost their reptilian vessel, they want to come back as human, they can. They're quite rare. Mintaka is a very rare, that's not who I was thinking of. For the record, Mintaka no longer exists. It's like Tiamat. There's quite a few planets that no longer exist. Andromedan homeworld no longer exists. There's a lot of planets that have been knocked out due to the Orion Wars. So yeah, there's also Mintaka starseeds, but they're quite rare. In fact, most of them are veterans. They died during the floods and all the chaos that happened here during the Orion Wars. Somebody said the movie Jupiter Ascending is real. Yeah, it is. It's one of my favorite movies. Yes, it is. 100%. Although that is a very glorified version of what reptilians look like. That's what a reptilian wants you to think reptilians look like. Okay? That's not what they actually look like. No. I got a message that I have guys that are Anunnaki. A lot of people use the word Anunnaki. Do you know what Anunnaki means? Anunnaki is the ancient word for extraterrestrial. That's what Anunnaki is. It means that it's galactic. So you can call them galactic, you can call them extraterrestrials, you can call them aliens, you can call them Anunnaki. That's all means the same exact thing. Have you ever heard of the giants named Mu? You might be thinking of the continent Mu, which is the other name of Lemuria. It was called MU, not MOO. It was MU was the original name of Lemuria. Lemuria is its modern name that a researcher gave it. He named it because he thought lemurs came from there. That's where he came up with the name Lemuria. He thought it was the home of lemurs originally that sunk during the flood. Heidi says, can you tell where we individually originate? Well, I would love to tell you that, Heidi. You come from Source, which is a very cheeky thing that Zach always tells me too. I'll be like, Zach, where is this starseed from? He's like, Source. I'm like, no, that's not what they want to know. Like, come on. Give me the dirt. I want to know where they're actually from. He's like, Source. They're from Source. And I'm like, that's not what I want. You know what I want. Where are they from? Where was their last incarnation before they took a human body? That's when. So if I say, where is your soul from? Where is your starseed origin? Then I'm not asking the right question. And that's why he tells me Source. But if I say, what was my last vessel before I chose to take a human form? That's when they'll tell you, oh, Andromedan, Arcturian, Salation, blah, blah, blah. There are so many different races that incarnate here. Some of them are new. Some of them are old. Some of them are part of our genetic makeup. They're like our long lost cousins. But Jennifer says, you got to be specific when asking. No, seriously, you have to. With the guides especially, it's just like that movie Bedazzled. If you don't ask the right question, you're not going to get the answer you were expecting at all. Not even close. So I thought the Anunnaki were a specific galactic race. Nope, they were not. Nope, Anunnaki is just a word for galactic. It means basically those from heaven. It's the ungenetically modified people that were here originally. Humans are technically genetically modified cousins of the beings that lived here originally. So we're not Lyrans anymore. We were originally Lyrans, but if you put a human and a Lyran next to each other, we are so fucking different. You can't even make the two anymore. They're so different. So we are like the long lost GMO cousins of the Lyrans. And the Lyrans are the ancestors of pretty much everybody. Everybody split off. And if you guys have seen the movie Stargate, where they talk about how one planet was attacked and everybody ran away and they tried to flock across the cosmos and try to hide and create life on different planets, that's exactly the story of the Orion Wars. So for those who are not able to remember that, I mean, I was there during the whole shit. I can tell you all about the Orion Wars. What about planet Nibiru? I believe that Nibiru is actually a biosphere. I don't think it's a planet. It's not in any particular orbit. I think Nibiru was a ship that was destroyed during the Orion Wars. I don't know if it's true or not. Maybe it wasn't destroyed. But most races that were here during the Orion Wars lost most of their ships. The Lizzies lost all of their ships except for a handful of ships. So in reading, is Enoch the same as Metatron? Enoch is no. There's maybe. The thing is, I didn't ask about Enoch, but I did ask about Enki and Marduk and a few others, and I found out they're Draco. So you see those old statues like what's his name? Zachariah Sitchin used to talk about those old texts that they got from Sumeria. That was damage control. They say that Zachariah Sitchin is a Jesuit. I don't know if that's true. It's just what I've heard. It was what the Taygetians said. The Taygetians said this several years ago, that Zachariah Sitchin was a Vatican Jesuit who was there to do damage control and to deliver even more confusing version of the Bible and what our past history is, to kind of, it was the original Bible though. It was. All those old books from those times, they were written by the Draco. If they were actually, you know what the guy had said? And I forget who said this. I think it was, wasn't Billy Meyer. It might have been Alex Collier that said this. Like I said, I'm just working on my source amnesia right now. But he basically explained, like, we have been basically kept here as a I don't want to say a farm. I'm trying to find something better than farm in my context, but no, it really is kind of like a farm down here. And so there are many different beings that have come here to add to that farm. They will bring their plant and animal life. They will bring certain levels of consciousness here. There's all kinds of things that happen here in regards, but it's a zoo. It's a zoo. Heidi says rehabilitation center. Oh, no, more zoo. More zoo. Definitely. I worked at both, and let me tell you, it is definitely more zoo-like. Erin's here. Hi, sweetie. Nice to see you. I got invited to go to the Monroe Institute. I don't want to work with the government, though. Wondering your thoughts on it. I know somebody who was very close to Dr. Monroe, and honestly, the CIA got into that 30 years ago, and they've been involved ever since. So the CIA. I mean, it's up to you. I don't think you're going to see CIA agents walking around that you're going to know about. But no, they have been using the Monroe Institute for a very long time. So if you do go there, then that's great. It's a wonderful opportunity to learn things. But just make sure you're doing your psychic protection every time you go. Yeah. No, seriously. And I would do it. I would definitely take that opportunity because you could learn great things. Just because it's the CIA doesn't mean they don't know shit. But no, they've infiltrated all those things. That's what they do, is infiltrate those things. 100%. Carolyn says, being a psych nurse, you realize this really is a zoo. No kidding. Like, we tune in to psych wards all the time. And that's what the guides have described it. I said, how is it looking there? And they said, it looks like Jumanji. that's one of the words that they used to describe it. They said, it looks like Jumanji. And if you've seen the movie Jumanji, you can get an idea of what a mental health ward looks like in the astral. So, how's everybody else doing today? Can I answer any more questions before I hop over to Astara in a moment? Summer says, I like to tell muggles they're living on an ant farm. That's funny. And the things are going to get more and more interesting as things are ramping up. So just be aware that things are going to seem weird now, but expect it to get weirder. Nathalie says, I love imagining the guides get together to watch our human movies. I was yesterday, we asked if one guide knows another. We were like, does this guide know this guide? And they're like, yeah, we know each other. I was like, how do you two know each other if the humans haven't met yet? You know what they said? They're like, you don't think we met at the meeting? And I was like, what meeting? And they said, the one before you came in here. And I was like, really? They're like, yeah. It was like, picture a gigantic rectangular table with pretty much every soul guide and being you can imagine, like Star Wars style, sitting at that table discussing your plan. All of them. So even though like they may not have seen each other for 30, 40 years while we were growing up, our guides know each other. And I was like, holy shit, that's cool. We're making plans to do a Gettysburg event, and I told a friend of mine from New York, I invited her to come down, and I said, "Would you want to join us for the event?" And she's like, "Yeah, I would love that." So I told Bradley that she's coming, and Bradley knows her as well, and was like, "Oh my god, I'm so excited she's coming!" But you know what's funny? You know who's equally excited as Bradley that she was coming to visit? His guide, Bradley's guide, Sam. In fact, he even depicted himself like ready to hitchhike. Like, I'm ready to go. He's got his backpack, like his suitcase is all packed. He was like, I'm ready to go now. Can we go now? Like, and we were laughing. We're like, that's adorable, Sam. Like, Sam was so excited to see them. And we're like, we wonder why at first. And sure, he's excited to see her guides because they're from the same race. Sam is Salation and her guides are Salation. So he wanted to connect with his buddies. So to find out that he's going to spend 3-4 days with his buddies, Sam was like, yay! Summer knows who it is. Yep, that's exactly who it is. So Sam was adorable with that. He was like, oh, I'm so happy to see her and to see her guides because those guides are his friends. So all of our guides are in cahoots, just for the record. Some people are like, I wonder how I found you, Laura. Well, your guides know my guides and they're in cahoots. That's how. Chances are you and I knew each other in between, which is why I seem to have a very familiar face for some people. They're like, I feel like I know you somewhere. I'm definitely not the person that talked you into coming down here. Okay. Don't look. No, that's definitely not. I'm not your recruiter, I swear. Oh, Leanne says they have to go through class to do this with you. I think it is a huge amount of love. Exactly. While you're in class for SRT, your soul guides are in class too, just for the record. Samantha says, in your experience, is it harder for people with learning disabilities while alive to understand to cross over after they pass? It depends. Just because you had a difficulty with your human vessel doesn't mean that your soul was not high dimensional and very high vibrational. One of the ways to recognize this is through listening to the telepathy tapes. If you guys have been listening to the telepathy tapes, you'll see some of those souls are more advanced than the souls around them judging them. How ironic is that? Just because they have a difficulty with expressing themselves, people think that their intelligence is subpar. But if you actually connect to them and find a way to, like communicate with them properly, you realize that their intelligence is probably dwarfs ours. So who knows? Every situation and every person is unique. We have no idea what was attached to them. This morning I had two people, I did a family clearing. I'm going to send the report very shortly. Two little girls were in the clearing and the two little girls had tics, like twitches, like kind of thing. And we found the graves, loaded them with implants. We found over 100 implants between the family members. They were just everywhere. So a learning disability or some kind of an issue with your vessel might not even be something that you did or that you chose. It could be something that was put on you. So just be aware that there's all kinds of things that, we judge based on our very limited perception and we don't know shit. So Brittany says some people think they're just on a slightly different frequency. Yeah, lots of people are. Schizophrenics are on a completely different frequency. Do you know the difference between, I hope that none of my medium friends get mad at me say this. Do you know the difference between a medium and a schizophrenic? The medium knows how to set boundaries. The medium knows they're a medium. The medium has trained to be able to set boundaries with those spirits and to tell them to fuck off when they don't want to trance them, when they don't want to have them attached to them. Somebody who is not able to do that, yeah, you're going to be labeled as mentally unwell because you're going to see shit that other people can't see and they're going to think you're crazy for talking about it. So, yeah, absolutely. There isn't much difference between somebody who is able to hear voices and recognize those voices versus somebody who's going, who is that? Is that, you know what I mean? Like they don't even know who they're talking to. There's a guy, I'm sure I'm not going to say his name, but there's a guy on YouTube and TikTok and all this who is a full-blown schizophrenic, he calls himself. He has a dog that he has as his therapy animal. And this dog's job is to tell him when somebody is real or not. He sees so many people and beings that he needs a dog to be able to tell him whether or not somebody is real. He has like a system where he has the dog, like he goes and gets cues from the dog, and the dog will tell him whether or not the person he's seeing and hearing is actually in the physical or not. Crazy, right? That they even train dogs for this. But yeah, they do. Because there are people that have such bad schizophrenia that they aren't aware that they even have abilities. They just think they're completely nuts. They're gaslighted and beaten down so badly by modern times. And for the record, I say modern times, but this is not new. Do you know where we find the most trauma for people with schizophrenia? In their past life resonances. Because you know what? In most cases, people who are born with a gift that is labeled schizophrenia, it's not the first time. Do you know what they used to do to people in Victorian era? Holy shit, Carolyn and I, we find a lot of these cases, don't we, my love? So what happens when we see these is that we will find somebody who's suffering, usually from bipolar, schizophrenia, or both. And we go into their past life resonances, and we have found that they are repeating a pattern that they had in a past life, where they had a gift of being able to see and hear everything around them, but they can see aliens in a time where people didn't even know what aliens were. They could see demons and other very freaky creatures that could show you things. They could change things. They can alter what you can see, like very, very easily. And this is going to cause psychosis. Even if you are somebody who is absolutely gifted and everything you're seeing is real, you could believe that you're nuts because other people aren't seeing it too. So what do they do back then? They would lock you up. And they don't just throw away the key. Okay. I mean, yeah, some places back, I mean, for thousands of years, that's what they did. They would lock you up and throw away the key. But you know what they did in the Victorian era is even worse. They would parade them around as if they were pariahs, like they were a spectacle, like it was a fucking zoo. And they would even chain them up outdoors so people could walk by them and point and laugh. And then when they got back, this is just, I mean, think about it, right? Those were the lucky ones that were outside, because you're outside. You may be chained up, but at least you're outside. Guess what the ones that weren't well enough to go outside were dealing with? They were dealing with electroshock therapy. They were giving them fucking lobotomies. They were giving them all kinds of mercury treatments and all kinds of horrible shit. And many of them were being brutalized. They were being beaten. They were being raped. They were being all kinds of horrific treatments on them. They were brutalized in ways that most people have no idea that humans could even be that depraved. And they're carrying that trauma with them. In fact, many of them took their own lives. So now they're having to deal with the dark contracts they had from that life. They're dealing with the trauma. They're dealing with the psychosis of humans around them, judging them and beating them and taking advantage of them. And many of them weren't even able to speak. So how are they supposed to tell somebody that they're being raped every night? This is the kind of shit that people dealt with, and they're still dealing with it because that trauma doesn't go away. The trauma is still there. It's in your subconscious. So if you're somebody who's working in mental health and you have clients that come in and you see that they're dealing with trauma in a way that you can't really process because it's just so multi-layered, chances are that's why, because they're dealing with multiple lifetimes of abuse and psychosis and confusion and gaslighting and misery, just pure misery. So, yeah, out of all the cases that we find for people with mental health in past lives have multi-layered mental health they're working on. Good luck explaining that to a conventional fucking therapist. Okay? They're going to try and lock me up just for talking about it. Oh, yeah, this lasted through the 80s, 90s, probably even still happens to this day. They're just better at covering it up now. They did all kinds of psychological torture back then. Did you guys hear about the study that they did with triplets? Where they took triplets and they abused triplets really badly, and then they would see if one child would react they wanted to see if trauma would carry between children. All kinds of shit. They would abuse one of the triplets and then see if the other two triplets would have a reaction to the trauma, and usually they did. Not knowing that it's the same soul split between three bodies. Usually triplets and twins, I wouldn't say usually, but quite often it's the source splitting itself into an extra body for whatever reason. So of course they could feel it and sense it. That trauma carries over. But did they do anything with that study? No. So there's all kinds of stuff that could be causing it. Every single situation and person is unique. We won't know what the true cause is until we go into their Akashic record and have a look around. You could literally just be a new starseed coming in. This is your first time you've had a human body. You are a very high-functioning galactic being, and yet you come into a human body and they think that you're mentally unsound. You could have an IQ that dwarfs humans that's like IQ of like 50,000. But then you come into a human body, and if you're not able to express yourself very easily, they're going to think that you're stupid, even though you've got better intelligence than everyone else. So just be aware that, being in a human body is very limiting. And at times there are things that a soul cannot do because the vessel will not allow it. It has nothing to do with the soul. And some of them are just here to be a bright light. If you've got an Arcturian or Andromedan or somebody, that's even if they may be unable to function without help, it doesn't mean that they're not holding on to a very high frequency. It doesn't mean that they're not a very high vibrational person that's just there to hold the space and to be the light. Edward says, do you think they're monitoring high IQ souls coming into human bodies? I think they're monitoring everything right now. Why do you think they want to know? They can tell who a starseed is just by looking at your blood. I am not even kidding. RH negatives know what I'm talking about. So anyway, I need to jump over to Astara because I've been chit-chatting a bit long today. Who's going to join me for Astara today? I would love to see you guys over there. For those who aren't aware, every Monday we have a private chat on our community website. That is astaracommunity.com. It's a private Zoom, but you can come on video. You can come on chat, and it's just an ability for us to have a conversation. We'll answer questions, anything that you guys want to know. We can chit-chat about. If I don't know the answer, maybe somebody in the chat will. It's just an opportunity for us to discuss anything you want without any censorship whatsoever. We do have to be kind of careful on Facebook for obvious reasons, but on there, we do not. So anything that you guys want to discuss, any personal stories, any discussions, anything like that, it's on our community website. And we could discuss RH negatives because I see there's a couple RH negatives in the chat. So if you want to hop over, we can talk about that and other stuff. Chantal says you can even lie in the tub. Yes, you can have your camera off and just come on voice. That would be fine as well. All right. It was really good to hang out with you guys today. Thank you for joining me. We have Tammy Lopresti coming on because tomorrow is 11/11. Haha. So it's astaracommunity.com for those of you who are interested. You can donate blood, by the way, if you want to learn your blood type. That's the best way to learn. AB positives are very rare, Sylvia. If you go up on my blog on my website, astralara.com, there's an article about negative blood types, RH negative blood types. So you can go on my website, Astralara, go to my blog, and you'll be able to find the article I wrote about RH negative blood types. So if you want the article about RH negatives, you can go on there. If you want to come and join us for the chat in just a moment, astaracommunity.com is the website you have to sign up for. Tammy will be on, I don't know. I think it's going to be 10 tomorrow. I'll double check with her. I think it's normal time, but if I'm not, then I will see you an hour later. Cool. You can also get there's a card, Eldon card. I've never even seen that. Interesting, Tabitha. Cool. So yeah, we'll see Tammy tomorrow. We'll do some numerology readings and we'll discuss the 1111 portal tomorrow. Buckle up. 1111 portal is always intense. In fact, it's actually one of my craziest days of the year. I found out I was Zoran last year on 1111. So all these exciting things. Who knows what's going to happen this year on 1111? Wonderful. Cool. So I will see you with Tammy tomorrow, or I'll see you on a star just now. Mwah. Love you all. Thank you, Helen. Thank you for the compliment. See you guys soon. Lots of love, everybody. Bye.